My name is Yang Chen. I was born in Beijing into a family of musicians. Both my parents were members of the Central Philharmonic Orchestra in Beijing. So I grew up in the community of musicians, and learning music was just natural. And everybody I knew were musicians, and all the kids that I played with were learning some kind of instruments. So it was a very fun environment, and I was exposed to a lot of classical music, Chinese music, you name it. I came to the United States in 1988 to study with the renowned flutist who was the principal flutist of the Philadelphia Orchestra. His name was Murray Panitz. And when he traveled to China with the Philadelphia Orchestra, they had to spend some time with the Central Philharmonic Orchestra, which is where my mother worked. So they had a great time, and my mom learned a lot from him. And my mom told me that that's the flutist that you have to go study with, because my mom, incidentally, is also a flutist. So I came to the United States to study with Mr. Murray Panitz. I've been here since, too long ago. Yeah, I learned flute from my mom initially, and then I went to the Shanghai Conservatory of Music, their preparatory school, and studied flute there for 6 years.
Our Pure Heart Clear Mind show introduces the Western audience to Falun Dafa. Mm-hmm. How has Falun Dafa enhanced your musical career?
That's a very interesting question. After I learned Falun Dafa, I think something profoundly changed me, and including how I play music and my ability to be focused and the way I share music with people. I think before it was more, even though music is about expressions and the technical things is just behind it, but I was always more nervous, when I play in front of the audience, thinking too much about the things that I need to be careful of, the technical side of things. But I still remember very clearly the first time I performed as a flutist after I learned Falun Dafa. I remember that time, it was when I played with my parents. My mom is a flutist and my dad is a cellist. The three of us played a very simple piece called Pudu in China. I think it's translated as Universal Salvation. And it's one of the pieces that's composed by a Falun Dafa practitioner. Originally it's written for Chinese instruments, but we made it into a trio for 2 flutes and cello. It was at a Christmas party, and a friend of us suggested, why don't you guys, can you play that piece for us? We were like, we did, work on it together, and just for fun, or just for the 3 of us. But why not? There were maybe close to 100 people. And when we played that music, it was like a magical feeling. For the first time in my life, when I performed, I never felt nervous. I never thought about anything else but to convey and just share some kind of a special gift with people. And it was just a magical experience for me. It completely changed the way I was centered, while I played the flute for the audience. But even since then, I think I view music differently as well. To me, I have this firm belief that art is capable of influencing people, both positively or negatively, or, could lead the trend in society and that sort of thing. But if we use it for good, if we use it to give people positive energy, share compassion, and share love, and share, our caring, and share, I think, what God has given us to do good in this earth. It has a very special power to it. And to be able to do that as a profession, I feel so lucky and so fortunate. And yeah, I think it's the most amazing thing. And it has changed the sound of my flute. It has changed the way I express music. It's just been wonderful.
How were you introduced to Falun Dafa?
I was in the United States. I was in Philadelphia studying flute. My parents were still in China at that time. It was 1996. And my brother was in China, and they actually learned Falun Dafa first. My brother was the first one in my family who learned it. And when he was in his college years, he was always looking for the purpose of life. And he was introduced to some other Buddhist texts, but it was very hard to understand for him. And so he didn't really get it, and he just kind of put it away. Until one day, another friend of his, gave him Drum Falun, the main text of Falun Dafa. As soon as he read it, he realized he's found it. He's found what the answer is, and it's so plain and simple. Everything is explained so clearly to him. And after he practiced, he changed, in the way that he treats people around him, in the way he conducts himself, even started to quit some of the bad habits that my parents would like him to not have. So my parents, having witnessed that, were very amazed by this practice. And they've done other Qigong before. So my brother asked them to give it a try. At first they were like, oh, we're about to retire, we'll have more time later. Then one day when they were holding a 9-day seminar in Beijing, my brother invited my parents to go. So they decided to go. They were like, okay, since he insisted so many times. But something amazing happened during those 9 days. My dad was a heavy smoker for 30 some years, and my mom tried to get him to stop and tried everything in the world to get him to stop. But nothing worked, right? So during this lecture 7 of the video session, Master Li talked about, if you really want to quit, and you regard yourself as a cultivator, I will help you, and it will not be hard at all. So after watching the video, my dad went home, and later that evening he picked up a cigarette. But the cigarette tasted funny. It just didn't taste right. He got another cigarette, a different brand. It still tasted wrong. I said, that's strange. He tried a third brand. It still tasted wrong. Then he suddenly remembered what Master Li said in that lecture. And he was like, okay, then I guess I just won't smoke tonight. The following day, a friend of his offered him a cigarette, right, of a different brand. And he thought, well, it was offered to me, it would not be, it would be impolite to refuse it. So he picked it up and tried to smoke it. And then it also tasted funny. And then he tried a 5th brand. The same thing happened. Then he was like, this is like miraculous. Since that day, he's never touched cigarette again and never had the urge to try cigarette again. So my mom, and my dad started to practice Falun Dafa. And of course, during that process, they got healthier. A lot of their other problems, that they had before just went away.
That inspired you to practice?
Well, yes, and they sent me all the videos of the 9-day lecture, and they sent me all the books that they could buy in China and mailed it to the United States to me. And I started to read them. Another profound experience that changed me was when I went back to China to visit them, and I met a group of practitioners from Taiwan who went to Beijing for an experience sharing I think it's a duration of 9 days or maybe 2 weeks, 1 or 2 weeks. I happened to be visiting Beijing at the same time, so I joined their experience sharing. And every day we would read one lecture, and then they would talk about their personal cultivation stories. That was so incredible to hear those stories, because it talks about how they relate to their daily life to what they learned in the text. Because when I just read the text, I liked it and I thought, oh, this is good. But to me anyway, at the time I was like, oh, I didn't relate it that much to myself and to my day-to-day activities as much as they did. The way they did it, everything that they encounter in life, they start to reflect on what is said by Master Li and how they should guide themselves by truthfulness, compassion, forbearance all the time. And it was just so eye-opening for me on how profoundly this book can really change people. And it's not just a book.
And how did you find balance and cope with the persecution in China?
Oh, it was terrible. I still remember that night. I think it was July 20th or 19th. I started to see on the internet, I read from, I think it's Minghui website, that there is a massive scale of arrests taking place in China of Falun Gong practitioners. And of course, that was a huge shock, because before that, Falun Gong was the most popular Qigong in China. Every park you go to, you see people practice in the morning. And it was, the government even had certificates issued and honors issued to Falun Dafa. It was very shocking that, all of a sudden the arrests started. And so I called home, and my mom answered the phone, and she said that, yeah, Gong is not home yet. Gong is my brother. He went to the park to do the exercise in the morning, but didn't come home. He didn't go to work, and he didn't call anybody, and that's very strange. Later that night, he was allowed home. The following morning, he went to the park to do the exercises again. The same thing happened. One day, they took him and kept him in the local police station for, I think, a week or something. But this type of thing kept happening, and it actually just got worse and worse until one day, in the middle of the night, some local policemen suddenly, stormed their place in China and took away my mom and my brother. At that point, the government had already made a very serious statement that nobody could practice Falun Gong anymore. But my parents and my brother continued to practice at home. So they took my mom and my brother to a detention center. My mom was detained there for 30 days. But my brother was detained and then sent to a labor camp.
So how did you feel being in the United States and hearing that your mother has been detained and arrested for practicing Falun Dafa?
Terrible, of course. At the time it was very scary. So my brother was in the labor camp for 18 months. And during those 18 months, my parents came to the United States. Before they came, they were able to visit him a few times. And every time he lost more weight and his hair turned gray. And some months that you're allowed one visitation each month. And some months when they don't allow you to visit, that's when you really worry, because that means he's not in a shape that they want to even let people see. They tortured him very brutally in the labor camp. And on several occasions, he almost lost his life. He was at the brink of death.
At that time, did you ever think about telling your parents and your brother to stop practicing?
No, never. Because we know we found the best thing in the world. And no matter what people say, we know what it is. We know how much it's helped us, how much it's positively changed us into better human beings. And we feel that we found the truth of life. And yeah, we wouldn't let something like that stop us. But anyway, my parents later came to the United States, and we started to make public, what's happening to my brother. We actually, my parents were participated in there was a SOS walk, long distance to help raise awareness of what's happening in China, because unfortunately all the media in China is controlled by the government. So it's hard to get words out about what's actually happening. It's also hard for people in this country to believe how terrible the persecution could be in China. Thankfully, my brother was able to survive it, and also somebody helped him to get out of China. Yeah, we're very, very, very fortunate that
so everyone is in the United States now?
Yes, he and his wife both came to the United States together. Unfortunately, most of his friends were still tortured in the labor camp, and some of them were killed. Some of them, perfectly sane people, were injected with some kind of drugs and made them insane. And then they said it's because you practice, they became insane because they practice Falun Gong, which couldn't be further away from the truth.
Do you find that your music has helped you in dealing with the persecution?
Well, I'm now the member of Shen Yun Performing Arts, and part of what we do is to raise awareness of what's happening, all the human rights violations happening in China. It's a real world problem, and it's affecting millions of people in China.
Can you tell our audience what Shen Yun is?
Shen Yun Performing Arts was established 8 years ago, and its mission is to revive traditional Chinese culture and share these traditional treasures and values with the world's people. Shen Yun is a world-class performing arts company specialized in classical Chinese dance and music. Shen Yun performances are always accompanied by a live orchestra, which consists of Western and Chinese instruments.
I've been to Shen Yun many times, and when I sit in the audience, I realize that the music sounds like it's heavenly, or it comes from heaven, and it actually brings tears to my eyes. Can you give maybe a reason that you understand why it might have that effect on some people?
Everything we do, every single element in Shen Yun, be it visual or the whole experience that we want to provide to our audience, is something that's purely beautiful, inside out, from every angle. From the music to the dance to the costumes to the lighting, and everything is really, really beautiful and gorgeous. So in terms of music, we really try to achieve a kind of tone and sound that is very special and close to people's heart, but at the same time, very expressive. So when we combine traditional Chinese instruments with the Western orchestra, we're really, combining the best of the two worlds. These two together offer a very unique quality to the sound, and different colors, enriches the colors of the sound. I think what moves people is because of the heart that's in there, in the composition, and the heart that's in the musicians who are playing the music. When we play this music, like I said earlier, it's like sharing. We feel like we're sharing the best gift in the world with our audience member. Sometimes what we play is actually very simple, but it has that magical power. And to me, I think that's, the force within it is what's making the difference.
Do you foresee in the future that you will be performing in China one day?
Yes.
That's wonderful.
I don't think, being a musician, your goal is just to find a job. And you may not be happy with that job, but you have to make a living. I think that I'm more fortunate where I found something that I can utilize my musical talents, but at the same time, I resonate with the mission and the cause of what we're doing. I conducted one of the Shen Yun Performing Arts orchestras for 4 years, It was a really special gift, I think, in my life. I learned a lot, and I totally enjoyed the people that I work with. And it's a thrilling experience, working with the choreographers, working with the dancers on stage, and at the same time directing the orchestra in the pit, making sure all the time everything is seamlessly happening during the show, and to feel the audience's excitement. All of that, it has just been a tremendous experience for me.
Where do you see yourself in the future? Maybe teaching?
Can I not answer that question?